this year, I want to save this year for a second. We'll get because this year was juicy, right? Yeah. But like
juicy.
The prior 3 years, let's kind of tell us a little bit about some of like the really like low moments, and then we'll kind of get into some of the high moments, and then we'll move kind of like into what like this year looked like, because this was your first 6-figure year, right?
Yeah, first 6-figure year.
So the previous years leading up to that, what were some like crazy hardships?
I mean, again, like you can get a low moment from comparing yourself to another person, but you will have these expectations or these goals. So say, if I could like tell myself something back then, it would be basically you can have a low moment, and that will spring you into literally a different mindset and, to greatness if that's what you want. But
how do you mean?
Low moments are actually a good thing.
Like like growth opportunities.
Yes.
Okay. It's all perspective, right? It depends again on the person who's like in the problem.
Right. I can't really, think of this one time where I was like, oh my gosh. I guess my low moment would probably be like before all that. So like finding my vehicle.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Finding my vehicle. I can't really say that I had a low moment because I was so grateful for the vehicle I was in. So I guess it would be just being lost before that, 20.
So your low moment almost came before the actual hard part, which was working, right? So like working was almost a saving grace.
Of course, yeah. And that's probably why I was able to do, better in my life is because I've had low moments like that.
Right.
But I was so grateful for an opportunity, and maybe someone wouldn't see that as an opportunity, which is actually what the low moment gave me, funny enough. So yeah, I would just say it would be like, not having direction would be my low moment. And I could name a time in my life and stuff, but I don't think anyone wants to really hear that. But yeah, like
sure. I mean, bro, want to get into it for a second?
Everyone has. We can talk about the one this year.
Okay.
Or just a time,
For sure.
But, by the way, I want to add a little bit before just slight interruption. You said a word that's very powerful, and you're grateful. And I think that's something that stops you from being in low moments. When you're grateful at all times in life, I think everything just becomes a little bit easier, just more than you fucking think. Even when you wake up, you say, I'm alive. I'm grateful. Exactly. I'm grateful for that.
You feel good.
That's very fucking impactful. Like, I mean, I used to be grateful for fucking nothing 2 years ago, and now I wake up, with a breath of fresh air every single day. I'm like, thank God, thank life, thank whatever the fuck.
So that's what I say. Like, I can't necessarily pinpoint, like, oh, this time was my low moment. But looking back, I'm like, okay, when I had no direction, that was all bad. Like, no direction. Maybe,
that was the low moment.
Doing bad habits that I didn't want to have, or just, again, no direction. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, no goals. And I would describe that as a low point in my life.
Yeah. So basically, it feels good to be on a mission now that
that's the best feeling.
It's like waking up with like what you need to accomplish today.
Exactly.
Being able to actually fucking pursue that.
For example, like you guys have, you're starting this podcast, episode 1. What's up? I wouldn't describe like when you guys make it in 5 years, you can look back at literally this moment right now, and I don't think you would describe it as a low moment. Like we're sitting on some casting couch vibe right now, like.
Dude, we were about to name the podcast.
We weren't, but that was definitely a funny point. Yeah.
Like you got cords, chilling over here, which again,
Malachi
it's like,
just sprawled out on the couch with no clothes on. Welcome to the puck.
This is like the Florida version of like doing it out of your basement, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
I wouldn't even describe it as a low moment. Like this is like the best moment.
Yeah,
right. So
100%.
It's hard to like pinpoint like a low moment because like when you look back, you're just like, was that actually a low moment? But yeah.
Yeah. So now that first year, so to kind of rally off that question real quick, just because again, I think such an important like thing is like this is the highlight reel. Like here's Trevor with the boys, right? We're showing our podcast, drinking some Ronas, right? We got some freaking studio lights back here you guys can't see. So like this is yeah. Speaking of Ross, another one. Randy, we don't have any more for you, bro.
Can you grab me a bottle opener?
Dog. I'm a lightweight. I'm pretty drunk already.
But yeah, so that first year, I want to hear two things specifically for the audience, right? Because like this is the highlight reel, but let's go back to when there was no highlight reel, right? What was one moment that first summer, or even in the let's save this year for a second because this year was special because it was 6 figures and there's a lot of good stories there. So we'll get there in a second. But in the last 3 years leading up to this, what's up? Bottle opener.
Bottle opener. Keys.
You got it. Okay. So this year, what was like what was like, or I'm sorry, in the 3 years leading up to this year, what was like one moment in the last 3 years that you can think of, like, again, excluding this year, that was just like, while you were either on the doors in the middle of summer, that just like really tested like who you are as a person? That's number one. And then number two, I want to hear like, let's start with that.
Okay, so
What was like one thing that really tested you, coming up to this point?
I think the test at first is every day. So
Right.
it's like, it's not just like this.
That's not the truth.
Yeah. It's like, it's not even like, oh, I had this one time where like, oh, and then everything changed, which people do have that. And I've actually had that moment. But when you're first starting out, it's the day-to-day like belief in yourself, especially when you haven't done anything before. And then especially when you've worked this certain amount of time and you have no result.
Right.
That's where you really find out.
It's like having faith in the unseen.
Yeah, it's faith.
Right.
It's literally just faith. So like, I have no reason to believe that this is going to work except for faith. Like that.
Was there a specific moment you can think of where like you had to like basically,
as far as Vivint goes, not really.
You've always just kind of had like a high belief in yourself?
Yeah, it's like when I get into something, the fact that I'm doing